New connection discovered in theory of everything. So, in integral theory, there's this concept of goodness, truth, and beauty. And those kind of represent the big three. And I've spoken about this a number of times. However, something just sort of clicked in my mind. If you look at goodness, truth, and beauty, or more precisely, I'd say beauty, goodness, and truth, you can express these a few different ways, but beauty in some regards, from my perspective, is one way of saying really physiological integrity. It is, in a sense, that from which the I impulse comes. And, of course, the I, the expression of the self, as I, goes all the way up and all the way down, and so is sort of, in that sense, actually inclusive of goodness and truth. But one way of looking at it is to say that beauty is an expression of the physiological integrity of an individual, of a being. That is to say, the degree to which my body has physiological integrity tends to be the degree to which I express my beautifulness. Now, beauty is only skin deep, so it is, in a sense, in a very real sense, the lowest of the levels of integrity. But health and so forth makes it more easy to have integrity at the other levels, because physiological health is sort of like the ground from which the others come in a fairly real sense also. And so mutuality, or goodness, or compassion, or kindliness, is another way of saying, that is the sort of second level of integrity. So it's like kindliness